Hello everyone and welcome to Geopolitical Trend. I'm so excited to be here with you as always. Italy is unlikely to renew its BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative deal with China. Why all of a sudden Italy is changing its mind? Or was it pressured to do so? In this video, I'm going to provide you my insights while highlighting how not only Italy, but a whole Europe, for that matter, is shooting itself in the foot, economically speaking. But before I delve deeper into this, I'd like to extend, as always, my sincere thanks and appreciation to the channel's supporters and members. And for you, if this is your first time landing here, make sure to subscribe so you can join the thousands of subscribers in this channel and smash that notification button so you will be notified every time I upload a new video. And thank you all for your continued support. Let's dive into this. How likely is Italy to leave China's BRI? Well, Italy is highly unlikely to renew its BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, deal with China, which, by the way, expires next year. This is what's going to happen. But Italy needs to discuss this with Beijing. This is according to a senior Italian official who has a knowledge of this internal dynamics. And what he said, by the way, this individual is anonymous, wants to remain anonymous within the government. He said that the formal decision about this would not be made ahead of G7 meeting in Japan. Well, guess what? The meeting took place, right? And the reason why this was stated is because Italy wants to consult with the members of the G7. Well, wait a minute. Isn't Italy a sovereign state? Why does Italy needs to have a permission from other members whether to conduct business with China or not? And that shows you, or it tells you the story right there. So his argument that it's a sensitive topic, that's what they are saying, so which doesn't make any sense. Even the Prime Minister's office of Giorgia Meloni declined to make a comment on this topic. That's how sensitive they are, but there's something beyond that. And I'll tell you as I move forward into my discussion here. But I need to provide you the historical and political background to understand where Italy comes into this picture, how Italy ends up signing up for BRI. Well, believe it or not, Italy was the first big European economy to join China's BRI. And why did Rome sign up for this, you may ask? It's legitimate questions. So it goes back to March 2019, when Italy signed the Memorandum of Understanding, an MOU, with China on the BRI. This culminated a long-standing economic relationship spanning decades that was punctuated by sort of the finance minister. His name was, or is, Giovanni Tria. Tria made a trip to China in 2018, and he is the one who kind of expedited the process, or quickened the process, that is, for Italy to join the BRI. Even, believe it or not, in 2018, back then, from that point forward till recently, the political elite in Italy, sort of were in support of this agreement about the merit of deepening the relationship, economic relationship, that is, between Italy and China. And the interesting aspect is that industrial relations between China and Italy dates back to the mid-1980s, when Romano Prodi, at that time, who will later, if you know a little bit about the history of Italy's political government, Romano Prodi became the prime minister and served 2 terms. So at that time, Romano Prodi was the president of Italy's Institute for Industrial Reconstruction. So what happened with Mr. Prodi back then? He asked China to build him a factory in Tianjin. Yeah, that was what Prodi asked China for. In return, his Chinese counterpart helped him build a factory in what was then the Soviet Union. So, once Mr. Prodi became a prime minister in 1997, Prodi led a massive trade mission to China, believe it or not, bringing with him on the trip over 100 companies to promote joint ventures, in engineering, pharmaceutical, foodstuff, textile, fashion, and finance, among others. Why am I highlighting all this? To highlight to you the deep economic ties between Italy and China. Then you put this within the context of this sudden decision that the possibility that Italy might withdraw from the BRI. And again, as an analyst, I will ask the common question: was Italy pressured? It's no different than what Germany, no different than France, and so forth. But here is the thing. Most Italian prime ministers, believe it or not, if you look at the history of Italian governments, most history of the Italian prime ministers over time, they all have shared Prodi's warmth, that is, relations with China, including, and I'm gonna spell up some names for you, those they served as prime minister: Massimo D'Alema, Matteo Renzi, and Paolo Gioventuoli. The only major, get this guys, the only major dissenting voice has been none other than the previous prime minister, Silvio Berlusconi. And why? Because Mr. Berlusconi, after he sold his Milan soccer team to Chinese investors, here is what he did. He sold the team to the Chinese investors, then he presented his candidacy for the 2019 European Parliament election. And guess what did he run on? He ran on as a counterweight to Chinese hegemony. That's what he ran on. He asserted, and this is what Berlusconi said back then, he asserted that Italy, and I quote here, should side with the United States in its antagonism toward China. End of quote. So Berlusconi, which we all know, serves his own interest. That is what the statement was all about. But here is the problem that Italy, it's not foreseen. And I'm saying this based on the research that I conducted after I read the analysis of two professors at the University of Bologna. And I'm going to detail with you why. This is why I like this geopolitical dynamics, is because the media will only present the arguments that Italy is fed up with China, doesn't want to do it. But they don't tell you the truth. They don't tell you the details as to how that decision is going to impact them economically in the long run. Look no further than what's going on in Germany right now. It's no secret, and I'm going to do a video for you about the upcoming collapse of German economy. Yeah, you heard me. And I'm not sort of exaggerating here. You will know why, and I'm going to detail that. So here's the thing about the competition for this lucrative Chinese business in the Mediterranean. Why? Because Italy is on the Mediterranean proximity. And you will know why here. So Italy has a good reason to nurture its friendship with China, despite what you hear. And as I said earlier, I did the research on it, and I found out that there are two professors. One is by the name of Enrico Fardella, and the second professor is Giorgio Prodi. And by the way, this Prodi guy, professor, has no link to the Romano Prodi, the former prime minister. So both of those scholars are from the University of Bologna. And when they did their analysis about the BRI impacts on Europe, particularly Italy, what they found was that since Chinese shipping company bought a controlling stake in the Greek port of Piraeus in 2016, the Mediterranean has become a more important trade hub for China. because the volume of trade went up. And I'm going to share the numbers with you. Maritime transport is an important part of the BRI, as you may know, because of the vast majority of China-Europe trade travels on ships. This is what's important. And for some odd reason, you wonder, what's wrong with the Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, for wanting to embark on this economic suicide? Because that's what it is. So according to Prodi and Fradella, the Belt and Road Initiative impacts on Europe. They wrote an article in 2016 about it. And after China acquired the port of Piraeus, get this guys, 13% of Chinese trade passed through Greece compared to just 2% 7 years prior. Just let that sink in. 13% of Chinese trade passed through Greece compared to just 2% 7 years prior. So what these two professors, Fardella and Prodi, warn that should Italy remain outside the BRI, it could miss trade sort of opportunities, massive ones. Specifically, Italian ports on the Adriatic Sea could lose business. Should the port, in this case, should the port of Piraeus become linked to Central Europe via rail, because that's how they are. Most of the ports in Italy are linked to Europe, Central Europe, that is, via rail. Because this would mean what? It would mean that trade will bypass Italy altogether. If Italy withdraw from this BRI, there will be no more trade passing through Italy. And Italy will suffer economically. It will be a big loss for Italy. And the reason also because most of the commodities, landing in Italian ports and being transported by Italian railways. So Italian ports are already connected by rail to Central and Eastern Europe. So this could, which is making perfect sense, but you wonder why politicians don't see the logic in their decisions, because in this case, Italy, which serves as a hub for trade coming from China via the Suez Canal, could see all that evaporating. This is where I see it going, economically speaking. So, by the way, guys, if you like the content of my videos so far, or this video that is, just hit that like button. I will truly appreciate it. And subscribe if you have not done so. Thank you so much for your support. So, now comes the big question. Is Italy boxed in? Or is Italy pressured to make this decision? Granted, signing up for the BRI does not come without risk. This is what some are saying. Of course, before you sign up into something, you have to know what's in it for you. China is not pressuring Italy or any other country for that matter to sign up for the BRI. So, but also there is a risk not signing up. You are missing up on other opportunities that other countries will benefit from. So the argument that has always been is that there is a risk that BRI financing could leave Italy further in debt, given that Italy, along with Greece, is already one of the two most indebted countries in the Eurozone. Well, wait a minute, how did they acquire this debt? Of course, this goes back to 2008. There was no conversation about the BRI at that time. So how come all of a sudden politicians in Europe, or Italy for that matter, are linking Italian debt into the BRI? That just doesn't make sense. It's a lie, basically. So the second risk is that Italy will be perceived. Here is where I see why Italy decided now to think about withdrawing from the BRI. Italy, that is, will be perceived as drifting away from its traditional allies or partners over, like other EU members and the United States. Yet, as Italy still suffers from the 2008 global financial crisis, or GFC known as that time. And also Italy feels betrayed by the United States because of the Libya disaster. Italy contend with being abandoned by Europe over the immigration and economic crisis. So, it begs the question once again, what are Italy's priorities? That's what I see. I remember when Giorgia Meloni came to power, said, oh, we're going to spur the Italian economy. And everybody was cheering up for her because they were thinking that she's going to be a strong leader, standing up her ground and in support of what's good for Italy. Turns out to be another weak leader. She caved in. Now she is reversing all those policies that she ran on. And it shows you how weak European leaders across the board. You take few, like for example the Hungarian Prime Minister Orban. The guy stands his ground. Yes, he is a member of the EU. Yes, he is a member of NATO. But he's saying no to the EU and to NATO and to the US because the welfare of his country comes first. I don't see Italian doing that one. So now here is the very important, if you understand the dynamics of how geopolitics works, even among allies, you have other countries, especially France, have expressed concern about Italy's engagement with China. But guess what? France in itself was quick to sign their own deals with China. This is hypocrisy at the highest order. And what would you expect from Western leaders? They just lie. They can't take stand. Where is the courage of standing up to what you believe in? This is hypocrisy. That's what it is. And who's end up paying the price? Is the average citizens. Average Joe, average Jane. It's not in Europe. We have it right here in the US. Shame on them all. And I say it proudly. I'm not shy away of saying this. So here's my conclusion for you. In some respect, Italy's Western partners have limited its choice. That tells you what? Italy might not be that sovereign as you may think. It has to follow orders, what's the word? What's the expression we use? To the line, like Australia's doing, like Germany, like Canada, like the UK. You got the idea, guys. That this is exactly what I see. As for Washington, it was the Trump administration back then, the dismissal of both the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TTP, and the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership deals that made the BRI so attractive to Italy in the first place. But at the end, turns out to be that Italy was so weak to stand its ground. So the BRI is now, believe it or not, the only major global initiative designed to link Europe with Asia in terms of infrastructure, trade, and finance. It is only natural, in my opinion, that Italy wants a piece of the pie. But apparently, it's too weak to stand or take a stand on this issue. This is where I see it. So guys, by the way, if you like this, hit that like button to support this channel because I want to grow it even bigger. And without your support, I can't do this. So I appreciate you and thank you for all that. I hope you find this content informative. And as always, remember, geopolitics impact your daily life in more ways than one. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye.